be. And okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't have my sound working, so thank you. Yeah, good. Thank you, Lynn. I'll put it under that.
Yeah.
Good.
Very cool. All righty. Um, all right.
I'm
Are
coming
you
on the computer. Just give me a minute.
okay? That's all right. I'm just
And
getting
then I'll
everything
take
ready.
him out. Yeah,
Okay.
just like, all right, let me just get this. I
So are
think
you guys,
Karen could have drifted off. That's what I would do if I were her.
well, I, I don't know. But anyway, so are you guys seeing a picture of the book cover?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I'm okay. All right.
This is a very great thing to do because for me, like Cliff and I now, we look at what are we feeling and what are our needs rather than guess.
Yeah. That's great. I love it. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna go to the book, and this book is called Creating Harmonious Relationships, a practical guide to the power of true empathy. And it's by Andy LeCompte. Let me scroll back to the title page so y'all can see. Oh, scroll, scroll, scroll. There we go. All right. So this is the picture on the book, and it's based on the teachings of Marshall Rosenberg. So I'm really excited about this book. So let's move back forward. Okay. So I'm just going to start with the introduction. Introduction. Difficulties in relationships. Think of a relationship or a conflict you had with someone that ended unhappily. What bothered you the most about it? Remember what the other person did? What were you thinking and how were you feeling? If you're like most of us, you've agonized about these painful relationships and wondered what went wrong. You blamed the other person, and in your secret heart, you blamed yourself. Still, you're a compassionate person, and even though your feelings were hurt and you said things you regretted, deep down you really cared about the other person and wished things had gone better. If you could rewind the great videotape of life and repair the damage, you would. Now you are determined not to repeat the same mistakes. You work hard to keep your relationships healthy and fulfilling, struggling with issues as they appear in your daily life. Here are some of the situations you might be encountering. And here's some situations. Each time you and your spouse have to make a decision involving conflicting needs, you feel like you get the short end of the stick. When you both are upset and need support, when there's a choice of where to go together for a long weekend or who needs a new car, you feel that your contributions are not acknowledged and that you're getting less. As a result, you begin to feel bad about the relationship and yourself. Okay, that's a situation that some of us might be in. Here's another one. Your boss criticizes something you worked hard on. After you stayed late and used your own personal time, you're left feeling unfairly judged and angry. You worry about your future with this company. There's another one, and boy, I've seen this happening a lot amongst a lot of Course in Miracles people that we think we're underappreciated for the things that we contribute. And so, you think, maybe they just don't see how hard I work. You know, I don't say that because I think y'all overestimate how hard I work, but but that's okay. Here's another scenario. A friend complains to you continually. When you talk on the phone, you find yourself timing her to find out how much time she takes up in the conversation. You like her, but you start resenting the relationship because you feel like you don't matter. So if you have any of that kind of thing, that it's a one-sided, lopsided relationship, and you begin to feel like you're not part of the story or part of the relationship. Okay, here's another one. Every time you decide to make a major change, such as switching your career so you can do the work you love, your parents tell you you'll never succeed, and they advise you to go for the steady paycheck instead. You're disappointed not to receive the love and support you've been hoping for and wish you'd never told them anything. All right. And how many of us have been in that situation with parents, husbands, uh, friends, they just tell you, I don't think you can do it, and so they're not helping you. The question is, how can you make sure you don't end up with another painful relational conflict or loss? This is a core issue because we're questioning our essence, whether we are good or bad. We conceive a self-image from how we are in our relationships, and this conception determines every aspect of our lives. Recognizing the importance of this question in my own life, I embarked on a 20-year search to find real answers. In the last 5 years, I succeeded finding and refining a simple but powerful way to understand and empathize with people that went beyond all other methods. The results are contained in this book. Here is my story. So this is Andy LeCompte talking to us about his life and his story. So would anybody like to read? I better put up the list of participants.
I'll read.
Okay.
And then Audrey can read and we'll just go around.
Okay.
Okay. How I learned to communicate. I know about ineffective communication from personal. You have to just switch it, right? Or do I do that or do you?
I do it. I just switched it.
Okay. Experience. My family boasted a doctor, father, and a mother who was powerful in local politics. Both had lively and critical intellects. Back then, however, we were inept at talking about our feelings, so certain experiences dominated my awareness. My father's outbursts of rage terrified me. And my vivid early memory is of being paddled with a board in the garage. On the basis of each encounters, I determined that I was a bad person. In the isolation of my childhood, I didn't know there was another way of relating. I honed my critical skills, and in high school, my talent for pointing out other people's deficiency earned me the nickname, the cynic. I remember saying loudly into the hush, just after a kid dropped his tray in the cafeteria, "Smooth move, Bowles." I felt a glow hearing the laughter around me, but the kid hated me. I wanted a pretty girlfriend, convinced she would save me from my aching sense of inadequacy. Her love and unfailing support would bring me the security and happiness I craved. I never came close. I was too shy to talk to girls that I liked, never mind asking for a date. I soon learned that bourbon took the edge off and kept my dreams alive in romantic fantasies. My friendships with men didn't fare much better. I had a good friend, Ray, for a while in college. We got an apartment together, but he started doing unacceptable things like leaving dirty dishes in the sink. One day, I had enough, and not knowing how to confront him, I piled the dishes, greasy frying pans, all onto his bed. Later, I decided he just wanted good enough and moved out. With hindsight, I see I wasn't just a poor communicator. I was also unconscious of what was going on inside me. I lived in reaction to other people and used addictive behaviors to mask my pain. I felt closer to my older brother, Tony, than anyone else in my family. When I was 19, Tony died by suicide. My parents came to be with me at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, but typically for my family, we didn't grieve. That night, I shared a hotel with my father. Lying in bed, I thought about how whenever my brother came to the house, the first thing he would say was, "Is Andy home?" I really missed him. Remembering our close connection, I let out a few moaning sobs. My father said, "Andy, are you all right?" From lack of experience connecting at a feeling level, I took his question to mean that crying made him uncomfortable and said, "Yeah, I'm okay," and stopped. Repressing my grief took its toll. I got a severe case of infectious mononucleosis and developed an ulcer, neither of which was diagnosed for months. I lived 1,000 miles from home and was convinced I was dying. Then I began to have panic attacks. Waves of terror would surge through me, and I'd immediately have to get to a safe place. I told no one about these attacks, fearing I was insane and would be locked in a mental institution. I waited it out for a year and a half as the attacks slowly lessened. Although I didn't have friends, I was fortunate to be a good student. I obtained a BA in history at the University of Wisconsin and an MA at the University of California, winning several fellowships. Happiness in relationships, however, eluded me. The first positive change to my way of life came in the early 1970s. At the urge of a girlfriend, I began to meditate. Meditation allowed me to become aware of my thoughts. I saw that my mind generated thoughts all by itself. And that was there, and that there was a conscious me who could observe these thoughts. Look at that. This gave me a new perspective on myself. I realized I had a choice. I could decide which thoughts I wanted to entertain. Well, good luck with that. I didn't need to let myself be controlled by my initial feeling reactions to other people. Okay, Ozzy, you pick up not long after. Is she there?
I don't know, Oddsy or Wayne or anybody else who would like
I'm
to.
here, but my dog's barking.
Okay, Wayne, are you here? Would you like to read?
You could have been in another room. Well, if you want, I can go on.
Okay, no, I'll read.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So yeah, so this is I think pretty typical feelings that I know a lot of these same feelings I had, although my family was not emotionally my family was uh chaotic emotionally. Um you know, there was a lot of drama. Just to say the least.
Amen to that one, boy. I was like in a drama box.
Drama, yeah. And so yeah, so you know, I grew up, actually I grew up pretty much hiding a lot of my feelings just like Andy here, because I didn't want anybody to look at me. I just I didn't want any people thinking about me or wondering about me, what was going on. I was a very not shy, but uh you know, well, kind of, yeah. I was, you'd be shocked if you knew me when I was a kid and you know me now. I was just uh so shy and so afraid
Was
of
that your first 6 years, Lynn?
what? Oh
Yeah.
no, I was that way until I was a teenager.
Well, I actually was the same way. When I say the first 6 years, not my first 6 years, the first 6 years in school, I was just so shy. And then all of a sudden, like in seventh grade, everything changed. And I had no idea how that happened.
Puberty. Well, no, I talked a lot, but I was, like at school, I talked a lot. But when I was at home or visiting or with other people or whatever, I was always in a corner reading a book. That's all I did was go.
Yeah, but that's wonderful.
Yeah, well, you know, I didn't develop because I was so um, you know, I was really repressed a lot when I was little. Okay, so I'm going to continue reading. And this is wonderful that he found this meditation, because, you know, that's kind of, you know, what happened with me too, was that I found spirituality and found meditation, and that really helped me to deal with a lot of the crazy stuff in in my background in my life. So, all right. So, continuing to read. Not long after beginning to meditate, I realized the way I had been living was not bringing me happiness. So I quit my doctoral program in history and began to read psychology. Two authors in particular, ta-da, Carl Rogers and Viktor Frankl, had a profound influence on me, and I think they had a profound influence on all of us, especially those of us in a spiritual uh, mind. That these two were really very helpful. So, in On Becoming a Person, Carl Rogers describes the healing power of unconditional positive regard. A very, very important topic, unconditional positive regard. He validated something most of us know from personal experience, that it feels incredibly good to be listened to and understood by someone who sees only the good in us. His ideas resonated deeply in me. I wanted personal confirmation that I was a good person, and I wanted to experience this in my relationship with others. I had a negative attitude about life. Viktor Frankl, in Man's Search for Meaning, said, quote, "The last of the human freedoms is to choose one's attitude in a given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. It is this spiritual foundation that cannot be taken away that makes life meaningful and purposeful." And so that's basically, yeah, it's our ability to choose that gives us the freedom to live a whole and healthy life. And uh, you know, I I can choose to be happy, or I can choose to be miserable in any situation. I can choose to find joy. I can choose to find peace, or I can choose to find victimization, degradation. I can choose to see all those things because um, they're inherent in everything in the world. So, um, but um, but the choice to be happy, the choice to uh, be at peace with what's happening, that's what A Course in Miracles is teaching us. This is a whole focus of the course really is on the miracle of changing my mind. So this Viktor Frankl quote is very important. So continuing with the reading. I wanted to find that same meaningful conviction, but I knew there was a difference between simply reading Frankl's words about choosing one's attitude and personally integrating that truth. Frankl gained his knowledge the hardest way imaginable, surviving 3 years in Auschwitz, while his father, mother, brother, and wife all died at the hands of the Nazis. Frankl explained that there are other ways besides suffering to discover the meaning of life. I was intent on finding meaning in as direct a way as possible. I entered the most intensive experimental psychology training program I could find. I participated in individual, couples, and group psychotherapy. I taught assertiveness training, transactional analysis, and parent education, earning a second master's degree in humanistic psychology and organizational development. I then took a series of jobs training executives to manage people effectively. I became successful and was asked to join the executive board of my chapter of the American Society for Training and Development. And ASTD is a very prestigious organization. So that's pretty amazing. Uh, in the late 1980s, I began to consult independently. Although I was highly skilled professionally, my personal life was a series of disasters. My marriage was a good example. In my psychology program, I fell in love with a woman who was forthright in her humanistic convictions. Yet once I married her, I found I had little ability to articulate my feelings or hopes in personal, intimate situations. I wasn't able to tell her when I felt hurt, sad, or afraid. I feared she would see me as weak and would reject me. Excuse me. So I hid these thoughts and feelings. I then projected my inability to communicate onto her and resented her for not being able to guess what I really wanted. Man, does this sound familiar? After several years, I had stored up enough grievances against her to justify to myself that she was an inconsiderate, unloving person. We divorced. I expected that when she left, the trouble in my life would go with her. But as I sat in my silent house, I was shocked to discover that I was only the shell of a person. I lay on the bed with no life energy, unable to work. Then the panic attacks came back. I realized that my life didn't work. I wasn't better than other people, and trying to be quote unquote right in my judgments of them made things worse. My worldview was bankrupt. I hit a terrible bottom of despair, depression, and suicidal thoughts. And see, all the whole time, what he's really talking to is the decision to be right or happy. Is that's all it is the decision to be right or happy. All right. So by now, however, I had a wonderful young son. Rather than give him up, I began to look harder for answers. I re-entered psychotherapy and found myself unable to cry. I committed myself to learning how. I put together a crying folder of pictures of my son and my brother. I wrote a description of the day my son, in the hopes of keeping his parents together, first accepted being put on his Sunday clothes with accepted putting on his Sunday clothes without a fuss. I wrote about how great I felt the day I beat my brother at chess, and my exultation when I finally pinned him wrestling. Tony said that I was just getting too strong for him. It was only years later that I recalled he had a genius IQ, was 6 years older than me, and was the undefeated captain of his wrestling work team. He had let me win at chess and at wrestling because he loved me. Looking through this file, I could begin to cry. Then I would keep myself at it, even talking out loud, telling my son I was sorry, telling my brother I was grateful for all he'd done for me, and that I wished I could have been there for him. After crying hard, I would feel deeply relieved. The panic attacks stopped and never came back. I also went to support groups and began to develop an inner life. At one of these groups, I met Carrie, a man with a past as tortured as mine. But he was now happy and serene. I noticed him because when he told his story, he cried and was unashamed. I gained the courage to ask him to sponsor me. He became my good friend, the first man with whom I could be completely honest and not made to feel ashamed for feeling weak or afraid. Carrie also attended meetings to discuss the book A Course in Miracles and invited me to come along. Aha. All right. Would anybody else like to read for a while?
I think Ozzy is back. Are you back,
I can
Ozzy?
read. Yeah, I'm
Okay,
back. I
good.
can read.
How are you thinking about this so far?
I love
Great.
it.
I love it too. I can relate.
Yeah, I mean, if you read both his books, he's somebody who really loves psychology. I do. And it reminds me of myself because I will put myself in anything to grow. And that's what I see in him. There's a great deal of passion for being okay. Even
Karen,
I thought he was Andy. Anyway, go
Karen's
ahead.
got her hand up. Karen's got her hand up.
Oh,
Karen?
Karen,
Yeah,
yeah, please go
yeah.
ahead.
Thanks, guys. I missed a lot of this because I had a nurse come in, and I had the doctor's assistant come in. I didn't get to listen to everything, but what I did hear, I think what I heard was, did you say that his brother committed suicide at age 19?
Yes.
He's had a
Wow.
very hard life. Yeah, he did. If you
Wow.
Yeah,
And he
it's
was
in his
very
other
close
book.
to his
It's really
brother.
sad.
And he was very close because he said when his brother came in, he'd say, "Where's Wayne?" I mean, where?
Andy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
he's had a
Oh,
tough life. Yeah.
oh
yeah.
I
my
mean, a
God.
tough story.
This is really good. I'm sorry I missed what I missed, but what I've heard, I loved.
Oh,
So I'm
good.
glad you guys are reading it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Karen. I'm glad you're here to hear it. All right,
We
so
love you, Karen. We're
yeah,
here, your mighty companions to keep you company. And that's good because we can
yeah.
be
Thank you,
here.
thank you. I so appreciate it, Sharon. Really, I really do.
Well,
I'm
we
so
love you.
grateful for you guys.
Man, you sound so good, Karen. I love
You're
it.
precious.
All right, Ozzy, go ahead.
Yeah, Karen, you sound great. I hope they gave you some meds. Some pain meds. All right. Where are we in the thing?
We're at the top of this page, the course
Oh, thank
provided.
you.
Okay.
Okay, the course provided me with some important understandings that I was essentially good and that my inaccurate perception of other people led me into conflict with them. Forgiving them would lead me to inner peace. By forgive, the course means to stop judging other people on incomplete evidence and see and accept their goodness instead. You know, I can see like my husband and his family, they seem to be able to do this. So like without the course. So I'm just like, what, like, I still wonder, like, what's wrong with my brain? But it's just a different conditioning, and I just got to be patient with myself. The course gave me a better understanding of my mind, pulling together much of what I had already learned. But how to apply this abstract knowledge in face-to-face emotional conflict situations still eluded me. In 1993, my music teacher handed me a videotaped presentation by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, founder of the Center for Nonviolent Communication. I wanted to say violent. As I watched Marshall interacting with people, I suspected he had what I was looking for. I decided to participate in one of his intensive weekend workshops. And I love that we got to see a picture of Andy with Marshall the other day when he was here in Gather, and they were wearing the ears. That was awesome to see. Dr. Rosenberg listened closely, his eyes intent, his body still and open. I was moved by his ability to connect at a feeling level with participants and to facilitate healing of old wounds. He did a role play with a young woman who wanted to forgive the dying father who had abused her. Marshall helped her to say what she really felt, that in spite of the anger at the trauma she had experienced at his hands, in spite of her sadness at being unable to find happiness with men, she still loved her father. As Marshall role-played her father, I could understand how much he loved his daughter and how horrible he felt about what he had done to her. As her old pain surfaced, was released and replaced by love, everyone in the room was deeply moved. Her healing helped us all. And isn't that the truth, that healing, the one mind, it helps everybody. And I remember Lynn was saying earlier about when you get this feeling of you're just, a wave of just peace, or something comes over you, you're not sure why. Could be that somebody's thinking of you in love, sending you loving thoughts. I know that happens with my mom and I a lot. Like we'll be thinking of each other at the same time and whatnot. So there is that connection in the one mind. I saw in Marshall's nonviolent communication model a way to connect at the heart that transformed people's attitudes toward each other. It was unconditional loving. Attacker and defender, victimizer and victim were gently moved from what at first appeared to be intractable differences to mutual understanding and appreciation. Here were improvements on everything I had learned so far about communication, and a way to put into practice what I had studied in A Course in Miracles. Oh, that's awesome. This is going to be great. The following year, I completed Marshall Rosenberg's Facilitating Nonviolent Communication Training Program in Switzerland. It was a life-changing experience for me. I learned that it wasn't just Marshall Rosenberg who could transform perception and resolve deep conflicts harmoniously. Anyone could grasp and apply these skills. I committed myself to mastering and teaching them. When I returned to the United States, my personal life changed dramatically for the better. Practicing the skills, I became more conscious, forgiving, and happy. I am now in a healthy, intimate relationship and engaged to be married. My relationship with my former wife has turned from bitterness to positive cooperation. She recently invited me to her housewarming party. After 20 years of icy silence, I have established a warm connection with my old friend Ray. And my son's teacher told me she had overheard him telling a classmate, I have a great dad. Oh, that's beautiful, hey? I have a great dad. Gosh. I have adapted the nonviolent communication model into a conscious communication program, integrated into a broad psychological and spiritual perspective. In 1995, I founded a training organization to teach conscious communication and trained facilitators. As a result, many hundreds of people have now experienced the joy and satisfaction of transforming their relationships. Through my ongoing study of social psychology, I have found even clearer explanations for why we act as we do, how to be aware of and express what we feel, and to hear what other people are hoping for when they may not even realize it. I'll stop there at the end of this section.
All right.
Yeah, thanks, Odzi. That was beautiful. Okay, should I go next?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, A New Psychology. This is not just another communication book teaching canned statements and formats that are artificial and don't produce real change. This book goes to the source. Creating harmonious relationships offers a new understanding of how your mind works. You will learn a startling truth that your unconscious mind is controlling your life. Mistaken unconscious judgments lead you into damaging arguments and fights that are completely unnecessary. Well, this is alarming. It is also good news because you can't change something you are unaware of. This book will show you how to recognize your unconscious judgments so that you can transcend conflict and form positive connections with people. It is not enough to rephrase unconscious judgments. You must achieve a shift in consciousness, creating harmonious relationships. We'll show you step by step how to, number one, recognize your unconscious judgments as they happen. 2, become conscious with specific centering techniques. And 3, communicate with others so they become conscious. And that's interesting because when you say, what is a need, what are you feeling and what is a need, the person next to you will always then get out of the unconscious state. Because then they too, so you're kind of sharing with your, brother or sister that you're with, pretty much like working through this whole ability to bring us into consciousness rather than unconsciousness. Anyway, this book will teach you to connect with the good in other people. This is a different goal than that typically pursued in communication. In typical communication, both parties are operating unconsciously, and even with new language, the unconscious remains in control. Wow. For example, imagine that your friend Nancy says, I'm getting sick and tired of Frank always dismissing my ideas as naive. He ignores them and goes right ahead with his own plan. Your empathetic response to Nancy is, it sounds like you're angry that Frank never goes along with your ideas. Now, this is great because then you're listening. You're in the right mind because you're hearing. When the wrong mind always has layers of thought, it just comes in, and then we just go deeper into the unconscious until we're sleeping. This response is well intended, but it confirms Nancy's unconscious fear that Frank is bad. As Nancy continues to focus on Frank as the problem, he will defend himself. Your empathy has only exasperated the conflict. There is a better approach. A truly empathic response would be, Nancy, are you frustrated because you like your ideas to be appreciated? This response taps into what Nancy really wants, to be heard and appreciated. It's so simple, isn't it? It shifts her mind away from negative judgment of Frank, and she becomes more conscious of her positive intention. She realizes that, yes, she really does want to have her ideas heard and appreciated with this recognition. She can begin to think and communicate about how this could happen. Connecting with the good intentions in another person is true empathy. Now, I love that. I love that. And it's interesting, to always be able to do that. That's a gift. I could do that a lot, but sometimes if the energy of the other person was dismissive, I would just shy away. So it's kind of important that, we realize that if we're with somebody and they're engaged, that they want to find true empathy. We all do. In this process, the conscious mind of the other person wakes up. This transforms the situation and allows a solution in which both people win. There is tremendous power in this simple idea. This book will teach you how to override your unconscious judgments with conscious thought, and then how to listen and speak in a new way that is simple but effective. Over to you, Lynn.
Wow, this is great, isn't it? I'm just loving it.
It's a
And
great book, and it's great to do together because sometimes I won't sit and do it. And like this, it's
yeah, we're
I love
practicing
it.
together. And I love what he said here. Connecting with the good intentions in another person is true empathy. So whatever, a person may be telling you you did this wrong, or I don't like the way this is, or whatever their negative thought they may be saying, the words coming out of their mouth, you can choose to hear it as criticism, or you can choose to hear it as that there's a need that they have that's not being met. And so instead of reacting with um, anger or retaliation, or say some smart thing to them, or just hold a grudge, or tell other people, or all the different things that the ego does when it feels like it's being dismissed, that instead of that, we can just know that this person, they really intend the best thing. That unconditional positive regard that he was talking about, it's looking at this person and saying, I know the words that are coming out of your mouth could be interpreted as being really angry or judgmental, or whatever, but I'm going to choose to interpret it as that your true intent is to be loving, and your true need is to experience goodness, rather than anger and argument. So, that transforms the situation because my mind has changed. I've turned in what I was thinking to seeing things in a much different way, and seeing it in that different way allows you to be free without being judged. And what a great win-win situation. Rev Wayne has his hand up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that what a great line that is. Was the last thing he said, pretty much the last thing he said, this book will teach you how to override your unconscious judgments with conscious thought. I like that because it reminds me of a analogy that I heard a long time ago about how to deal with your mind, as opposed to digging into your subconscious mind and looking for specific examples of this or that, is to look at your conscious mind and as sort of a glass that's filled with dirt, and you would pour all the water from the faucet into the glass and let it just bubble over until all the dirt is out, as opposed to putting a spoon in and trying to take all the try to stick it into the water and spoon it out. You put the cooling water into the water and let it go into the water. All of the new water's in and the old water's out. And it's sort of similar to the conscious mind, is you just put the right thoughts into the mind and let the old thoughts come up and come out, as opposed to trying to dig it. I'm talking something crazy in the background. So yeah, that's just some else that came to mind. I like the idea of you override your unconscious judgments with conscious thought. So knowing what's going on, knowing what to think, and knowing how to do battle with negativity. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you, Wayne. And this is so easy once you get attuned to how you feel, because it's the feeling that you have. I know when I'm being a smartass. I know when I'm being rude. I know when I'm dismissing people. You wouldn't think, oh, Lynn, you don't do that. I do. I have a very cynical, he was talking about being cynical. I grew up with a very cynical mind and a very cynical way of thinking. And so, it took a while for me to get rid of that, just recognize that that was only because I wanted to be right. It was just what he was just saying just a bit ago. It's this desire to be the right one, the one who tells you how to be, tells other people what to do. And that was because I have a tremendous need for control, comes from having, again, childhood experiences that made me feel completely out of control and unable to do anything. So, it it really does, once you start relating, excuse me, your feelings, how you're feeling, you notice. And that's what where it used to be the ego got a lot of satisfaction from saying some smart ass remark and thinking I was being really cool, like him with in the lunchroom with, nice movement bowels. That's the kind of stuff that I was kind of trained to come up with, to just really, point out another person's faults or deficiencies, in order to probably protect myself from my own belief in my own faults and deficiencies. So these are all things that once you start looking at yourself and recognizing, this is, I do this. I have done this. And man, I'm telling you, if you knew Lynn from 40 years ago, you would be shocked, because I was the kind of person that in my job, my boss called me his pit bull. I was his pit bull. If he needed something done and he really wanted to push something or whatever, he would send me in, because I would not let go until I got what I wanted. And I could make people do stuff because I was just have that state of mind of, I know what's right. And people believed him because, they didn't have any defense against, it's crazy. I think about it now and I just have to laugh about it. It's so crazy. Oh my, I was absolutely a bitch, complete and total. And, don't cross me. Anyway. But I grew up with that. My mom was like that too. So I learned from the best. Anyway, all right. So I'm going to continue reading. Let's see. Or were you reading? Okay, I think you turned it over to me. Uh, anyway, I'm going to read this. What this book offers you. Conflicts are daily occurrences, and many are mishandled, leading to anger, frustration, and sometimes even physical violence. Unconscious judgments are the cause. Without awareness of how to override your unconscious, you will remain trapped in cycles of attack and defense. Here is the solution. Using clear language and entertaining examples, creating harmonious relationships teaches you how to consciously improve any and all of your relationships. It shows step by step, I love this, how to become aware when an unconscious decision is moving you toward conflict, how to use conscious override to create a positive connection instead, how to listen effectively to find what the other person is really feeling and intended, how to manage feelings, particularly anger and guilt, how to remain centered by not taking other people's attack language personally, how to speak powerfully without judging, coercing, or attacking, how to carry out challenging communications, and how to resolve conflicts while enhancing relationships at the same time. Conscious communication encourages people to disclose their feelings and the positive intentions that cause those feelings. Connecting at this deeper level results in profoundly satisfying relationships. This book will show you how to respond consciously, even in the heat of a conflict situation, and how to dramatically improve your connection with all the people in your life. Let's get started. Woohoo! I love this. All right. Um, so um, instead of starting a whole new chapter, we have about 10 minutes left. Let me see if I can find something to um, maybe something from Marshall to um, listen to. And if anybody has any thoughts that they'd like to share, just pick up the mic and talk because I'm
You
looking.
know,
Go
in my
ahead.
first marriage, we had absolutely no communication. I mean, I was 20 when I got married, and we separated when I was 40. And I was not aware that we didn't communicate because I was so unconscious at the time. Looking at this today, I see you can't really have a good relationship if you don't communicate. And what does that really mean? It means exactly what Andy's saying here. He's saying to be with that person, to be present, to want to know that person, to know what their needs are and how they feel. And most of the time we feel ashamed when we feel something, and this is something like, that we've been doing, my husband and I, my husband Cliff now that I'm with. Yeah. And it just seems it is true. There's more of harmony in the relationship. As a course student, you can look at anybody as the Christ, but to actually communicate in an artistic way, this is what this is. It's beautiful.
Yeah, also, Sharon, I think you're right. And one of the things is we can see each other as the Christ. But one of the things we did in my sort of metaphysically to get here was go out of communication. I mean, we have to assume that when this whole thing began, we were good communicators. We were in communication with each other. We were in perfect communication with each other. And then we come down here into this world, and we can't communicate at all. And so we kind of came here not to communicate. We kind of came here to separate and not be near each other, not communicate at all. And so we're sort of rediscovering our abilities here to communicate. And so it's going to be easier, I think, than we think once we kind of get the ball rolling.
Yes, I agree. It's
But
beautiful.
we have to kind of get it flowing, so to kind of get it going, get it go out of us. But I
You
think
know,
that it makes sense that we can have the ideal of the Christ within us, but it's not expected to kind of move faster than not expect too much out of the body.
right. It does something to now my dog, I have to feed him, so I'll pass the mic to whoever's here because he's going to start crying. So,
Oh, okay. My dog in
All
the
right.
background is barking about stuff out.
Okay. I have a little short video with Marshall Rosenberg called how to whatever how to resolve conflict, how to whatever. I had to go look at it to see what it says. I'm just going to play that, and you'll get to see the man, the Marshall, and and hear what he has to say. I think you'll be I think, well, if you haven't seen him before, you will love him.
This jackal empathy. I was wanting to jump in and educate her, but the way you're asking for it, Jackal, I think is going to make it hard for people to give it to you, see? I've wanted to say that almost every time. So I had to take a deep breath and realize empathic connection before education. Now is not the time to educate. That the way you're asking for it's going to make it pretty hard for somebody without super-powered giraffe ears to hear your needs.
Question on that. Doesn't this situation require some kind of resolution or solution?
Yes,
or
yes,
and almost
yes. And the
now-
resolution, the solution will find us when the connection is there. Now, what connection? You see, here's your wife's needs. Here's your needs. When she hears your needs without hearing any criticism or demand, and you hear her needs without any criticism and demand, the solution will find you. The conflict will resolve itself. It does need to be resolved. But what most of us do, we skip this and go right to here. For example, I sometimes do workshops just with married couples or other people living together in a love relationship. And what we do to begin the workshop, we identify the couple who has had a conflict, the longest outstanding conflict that could not be resolved. And I make a prediction, and it's right. My prediction has been accurate in maybe, I'm sure, at least 75% of the cases. But my prediction is this, that we will resolve the conflict within 20 minutes. Within 20 minutes from the point at which both parties can tell me what the other party is needing. Okay? Now, one time we found a couple married 39 years. 39 years had a conflict, had not been able to resolve this conflict. The wife said to me, Marshall, I can tell you right now, we're not going to be able to resolve this within 20 minutes. We have a good marriage, we communicate well, but this is just one of those things that we're different people and we just have a conflict here. Now I said, let me correct one thing. I didn't say we're going to resolve it within 20 minutes. I said within 20 minutes from the point at which you can both tell me what the other party is needing. Oh, she said, Marshall, when you've been married 39 years and you've talked about something almost every day, I can tell you we understand each other. The problem isn't that. We're just two different people in this issue. Well, I said, I've been wrong before. I can sure be wrong this time, but let's see. We'll find out within 20 minutes. So first, tell me what his needs are in this situation. He doesn't want me to spend any money. He responds immediately, that's ridiculous. 39 years of communication. Now, first of all, doesn't want me to spend any money is not a need. See, needs and strategies need to be separated. They had been talking about how much money she could spend and not spend, but the more important issue there was whether who takes care of the checkbook. He unilaterally controlled the checkbook, which was really the main issue between them. See, but I'm saying I don't even want the couple to talk about the strategies or the solutions until the connection is there. When the connection is there, the conflicts usually resolve themselves. So I pointed out to her, no, that's not a need. And even if it was, notice he's saying that's not accurate. But she said, okay, let me then tell you what his needs are, Marshall. You see, he's just like his own father. They both have a depression mentality when it comes to money. I said, stop. Now I'm hearing psychoanalytic jackal. And I was going to take another 39 years if you get into that. No, I'm not asking for an analysis of his personality. I'm saying, what are his needs? She didn't know. After 39 years, she had no awareness, consciousness of his needs. So I said to him, okay, well, she doesn't know. Why don't you tell her? Well, Marshall, let me tell you what her needs are. You see, she's a lovely woman, wonderful mother, a wonderful wife. But when it comes to money, she's totally irresponsible. Here comes another 39 years, you see. I ask for a need, and he gives me a diagnosis. And of course, she immediately says, that's unfair. I said, hold it. So I could see they didn't have a need literacy, so I had to loan them my ears. So with giraffe ears, of course, I'm conscious that all judgment, she's totally irresponsible, is a tragic expression of an unmet need. You see? So if she would have had these ears, they would have been able to resolve this in the first year of their marriage. But she didn't. She was taking it personally. So I helped them out. I said, when you say she's irresponsible, are you feeling frightened and need to be sure the family is protected economically? He said, that's exactly what I mean. Well, that wasn't what he's been saying for 39 years. But he didn't know how to say his feelings and needs. Okay, so I've got his needs identified. He was scared, wanted to protect the family economically. I turned to his wife and said, could you tell me back what you heard him say? But because I did, one time I overdrew the checkbook when we were, first married, now he thinks, I said, excuse me. Notice what the first word that she said was, but. See, she doesn't know the cardinal giraffe rule. Never put your butt in the face of an angry person. I said, what are his feelings and needs? But, no. What are his feelings and needs? Want me to repeat them? Yeah. I hear him saying he's scared. Well, but, no, hold it. Calm down. Hear his feelings and needs. See, but after 39 years of enemy image, it's not easy for somebody to shift these images, you see. Once we get one of these images in our mind of the other person's wrongness, even when they are expressing their needs, we don't hear it. These enemy images are hard to get past, you see. So she's been seeing him as cheap and having this depression mentality for 39 years. See? So she can't see the human being behind her image. I said, let me repeat it again. I hear him saying he's scared because he needs to protect the family economically. Can you say back? Yeah, he thinks I'm irresponsible. Let's try it again. After 3 more repetitions, finally, she could hear his needs and feelings separate from her judgments. Finally. Yes?
Did you try to empathize with her at any point? Or did you just keep repeating his need and try to get her to hear it?
Yes. After I had tried twice to get her to hear it, I could see she was in too much pain to hear him. So I had to do what I was just demonstrating like this. Actually, I had needed to give her some emergency first aid empathy.
So you did do that.
Before I could pull her by the ears to get her to hear him. So if after I tried 2 times to pull the jackal by the ears, it's hard to do that because they keep trying to bite, then I back off. So it really hurts when you hear criticism. Yes, I mean, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, and so you really need to be trusted. Yeah. Okay. Now I'd like to repeat what he said, and I'd like to have you tell me back what he heard. So yeah, I did have to do a little bit of cleaning up the mess before I could. See, every image that she's heard in the past, every criticism, which she'd heard for years she was irresponsible. Now it's hard for her to hear the need that was being expressed all along behind that. So finally I get her to hear his feelings and needs. Okay, we're halfway through. Now this much took me an hour. Okay, now I try to help her. So could you tell me now what your needs are? Well, just because I made them, I overdrew the checkbook, before, that doesn't mean I'm going to do it again. He said, yes, but we could be out of money, but excuse me. So, you're really frustrated, and if I hear you correctly, you have a need for some trust that you can learn how to handle money. Yes. Okay. Husband, could you tell me back? Yeah, and we'll be out of money by then. Excuse me. Can you tell me what her feelings and needs are? Would you like me to repeat it? Yes. Okay. About 3 more repetitions. He hears her. It didn't take 20 minutes to resolve it at that point, you see. Whenever I go into situations where there's been a lot of conflict, I don't even allow the people to talk about strategies until they're connected at the heart level. I was working with 2 tribes in northern Nigeria, one Christian tribe and one Muslim tribe. 1/4 of the population killed in 1 year. 1 out of 4 people killed. Took my colleague 6 months to get them to agree to come into a room together. During that 6 months, 60 people killed. So by the time it took us to get everybody into a room together, 60 people killed. So now it's not a husband and wife I have on opposite ends of the table, but the chiefs of 2 tribes. I start the same way I did with the husband and wife. I'd like to hear you express your needs. What needs are not being met? I'm pretty much guessing ahead of time I'm not going to get an answer to my question, because if people had been communicating at the need level, there wouldn't have been 100 people dead. So I wasn't surprised when instead of getting an answer to my question, I got this back. These people are murderers. Well, you've been trying to dominate us. See, I ask for needs, I get back diagnoses. So just as with the husband and wife, I put my ears on, translate each statement into a need, get the other side to hear it. It wasn't easy. I had to do a lot of first aid empathy to get, because like when I got this person behind murderers was, so you are frightened of any use of violence to resolve conflict and want some agreement to resolve it in some other way? Yes, exactly. Okay. Could you say back what you heard? Then why did you kill my child? So it wasn't too easy. But anyway, it took about an hour again for me to get one need expressed, one need heard, one need expressed, one need heard. And one of the chiefs who hadn't spoken yet said to me, if we know how to communicate this way, we won't have to kill each other. See, it just took 1 hour to see that if they can just stay connected at the heart level, nobody has to die. There's plenty of resources for getting everybody's needs met. But we lose that when we get up into our head and start to analyze wrongness.
Recordings of Marshall Rosenberg.
Thank you for that, Lynn and everyone.
Very much. Lynn, that was awesome. It really was. Marshall,
Yeah.
what? What's his last name?
Rosenberg.
Marshall Rosenberg.
Marshall Rosenberg, yeah.
You know,
That's
it's just
cool.
about slowing down and realizing we're not, when somebody's with us, it's a joining. And this gives you the tools.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It really is.
So,
Yeah,
Hanging out with other
really
people
good.
is a social activity.
Yeah,
yeah, I love it.
There
I will
are.
do this. If I'm home on Thursdays, I will do this because I feel the more that we are aware, you know, sometimes, you know, how our minds just talk, blah, 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 blah about the other person, not realizing our needs aren't being met either as the person. You know, of course we have no needs when we're the Christ, but there's always needs when you're living in a world.
Yeah.
Seeming to live in a world, right?
so thank you guys so much. Yeah, this is really great. And thank you, Andy.
I hope everybody will come tonight. Is Karen still here?
Yeah, she's still in the room. So
All right, Karen, you just tune in to us at 7.